So growing up, I drove by this farm almost every single day. It was directly between my parents' farm and my grandparents' farm. They were a couple miles apart. And so almost on a daily basis, we would go by, and I always admired it. It was like this iconic farm. It was set back off the road. It had this little white house and 2 red barns, and it was always meticulously kept. It was super neat. And I don't know, there was just something that was like intriguing about it because it just seemed like time stood still there. But I just always loved it so much. Even up until 6 or 7 years ago, if you would have said, Dawn, you can live anywhere in the whole entire world, where would you want to live? I would have picked this farm. But Tom's like, "Meh." I mean, for me, it's totally, it wouldn't have been what Tom would have picked. It would have been 1000% what I would have picked. And, you know, we've talked a little bit, we got married, we tried to flip a house that failed, and eventually ended up in a townhouse. And it was great. We lived there for 2 years. It was when like the kids were really little. It's where we found minimalism and like highly simplified our stuff. And then one day Tom came to me and what did you say?
I said, I think the market had gotten really hot, and I said, I think we need to sell this townhouse. I think this is the chance we're gonna make a ton of money on this place and find a place in the country.
Now, we had been trying to find a place in the country. I mean, since we got married, like that was our ideal, to own a few acres in the country. For me, preferably somewhere close to my mom. At that point, when we were living in this townhouse, we had put offers in on 3 different properties, 2 or 3.
Yep, they were all within a mile of your parents' house.
And they had all, for one reason or another, fallen through. And so it was really frustrating. So then Tom comes in, he's like, I think we should sell our townhouse. And I'm like, that's great. Where are we gonna go?
At this time, Dawn's parents had an unfinished basement. They walk out unfinished. And I said, let's take some of the proceeds of whatever the hypothetical sale. I'll finish your parents' basement. We'll live down there. It was like just under 800 square feet while we are still looking, because we couldn't find what we wanted anyway.
Yeah, and then we knew we would be in the best position to buy because we wouldn't have a house to sell.
Yeah.
The problem was we had 4 kids, ages like 6 months to 4 years old at the time. And so we were gonna move in with my parents with 4 kids and Tom and I.
Into less than 800 square feet.
And it was not anywhere near close to being ready to move into. So I was like, well, I don't think Tom would recommend this unless he really thought it was a good idea. So I was like, okay. So we listed our house for sale. Luckily, because we had highly simplified it, that made that process easier. It was still a huge pain having little kids and selling our house.
And that was right after I got my real estate license.
Right.
Yep.
So we got an offer, and we had 30 days to get out and get the basement finished.
Yeah, I was gonna say, not just get out. I had to empty and finish that entire basement in the 30 days too, and then move out of the townhouse.
So Tom did it, and we moved in with my parents. And I mean, we couldn't tell them how long we would be there. We said, we won't stay more than 2 years. But other than that, we have no idea. And so we moved in and with no plans. And so it went well. My parents were great hosts. It actually worked out very well. And so we're very grateful for that. And so we moved into my parents in September. And then the following February, this property became available. And so we had a chance to come and see it. And up until that point, I had never even been in the yard of this property.
Yeah. Me, neither had I. I had always looked over here, so I've only been around for 16 years or so. And I had always seen this place and thought, that's a cool old place. Like Dawn said, way far off the road, like a time capsule, nothing ever changed. But very clean. Mm-hmm. But I never even put it in my mind as an option, because I had just thought, that's a big farm. That's gonna be out of our price range.
So we had an opportunity to come and see the house. And again, so we had only seen it from the road. It just looked like a little tiny house. And so we got to come in and see it. And when we left, Tom and I got in the car. And what was your thought?
I remember thinking, well, there's actually a lot to work with there.
Yeah.
I was expecting low ceilings and like a layout we couldn't make work.
and like a lot of little rooms. I mean, we've been selling real estate, so we've been into all of these houses.
Yeah.
And usually a house of this era, like small rooms, low ceilings.
Yeah, crooked walls. That was the other thing. So
Crooked.
I'm very big on straight walls, flat floors.
Yeah.
Like when things aren't square, oh, it just drives me nuts.
So we got back in the car and we like looked at each other. I'm like, that's way better than I was expecting.
Yep.
So that was kind of a fun surprise. So we put in our offer, and later that spring we closed. And so it's actually been 5 years this spring now since we closed on it. So we thought it'd be kind of fun to go back and show you what it looked like when we bought it and some of the updates that we made. Because like Tom said, we felt like we were starting at a really great place. It like wasn't a complete gut job, even though we've gutted a lot of the parts now.
We basically have.
But initially, to make it livable and ready for us to move in, I mean, there was a lot of work, but not as bad as I was expecting.
So from the time we closed on it till we moved in, I think I gave myself 2 weeks, a week maybe? One week. Oh,
Yep.
1 week to do like the first reiteration to get us into the house.
So what were the priorities for that first week?
Flooring on both levels. So the upstairs had multicolored carpet and was pretty spent. This level had high traffic carpet and linoleum, and then carpet, and so it was just like get all the flooring out, and then put this island in. That was the other priority.
So when you walked into the kitchen, or when you walked in, you right away you noticed there was like a mosaic stained glass thing in the kitchen.
And a countertop with
So there's kind of a counter on the perimeter. And so Tom had a really great idea to take that out and put in an island. And so you got to work on that. There was also this like divider wall here kind of in the hallway when you walked in, and that was obviously outdated. What did we try to do initially with that?
So I immediately just ripped it straight out. All of it totally out. I didn't climb into the attic, nothing. Ripped it totally out. And then I got it ripped out and I was like, yep, that's load bearing. So I put it back.
Yep.
But we opened up the space when I put it back. I put a new header in, reframed the wall, and then just made the big opening that you see now, because it was much smaller of an opening, and then it had slots.
And so that was great. It made the kitchen function well. The whole house had just been painted, which was great, and then we put in new flooring. And you know, anytime you do new flooring and paint, it just really starts to feel fresh and ready to move in. And so I think that was kind of the bulk of what we did. The counter we got for the island was like, Tom wanted brown because it wouldn't like show as much, I think.
It's actually our vanity in our bathroom now, because I cut it down after we decided that was a terrible color after a couple of years.
Yeah. So eventually we did upgrade that. And then
but then we didn't throw it, we reused it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, which worked out great. But really the house, I mean, it's small, but it's laid out really well. The spaces were really functional, and we just lived here and we really liked it. And we still at that point had bigger fish to fry because it needed a new roof.
Our insurance company called us and said, you guys need to get a new roof on that. Like, this was right after we bought it. That same spring, they're like, you need to put a roof on that house or we will not give you homeowner's insurance.
Yeah, we're gonna drop you.
So we're like, okay.
Okay, that's good. Sometimes you need that stimulus.
Somebody came out and photographed it from the insurance company.
So we had to do a roof. There was some septic attention it needed. We decided to bury the power lines.
We actually buried the power lines year 2.
Yeah.
Because year 1 we got a bad storm and they slapped together and blew all kinds of stuff out.
Yep. And we had known, I mean, that was towards the top of the list when we moved in of like things that need to get done. So unfortunately the first couple years, well, fortunately and unfortunately, we didn't really get to do any of the fun
No, it was
stuff.
infrastructure stuff.
Yeah.
So we buried all that, which was not fun, but the moment the power company dropped all the lines and reconnected us to, like, because then the basement was knob and tube, we got rid of that and we put in breaker panels. Like, it was just like, this is great.
I mean, the first year that we lived here, I drove in the driveway, like every day I drove in, I'm like, I cannot believe we live here. Like, I still couldn't believe it. It was just, I don't know, it felt like a dream come true. And so as we look ahead, everything we do is kind of through the lens that our hope, our long-term goal would be to live here forever. And so just kind of making it how we want it to be for living here for a really long time. When I said I wanted to live here, I think initially you were like, oh, I'll humor her, right? But I think you've kind of fallen in love with it.
When you said you wanted to live here, I had thought, dude, there's no way. I truly remember thinking, Dawn, there's no way. Like, there's just no way we could buy that.
And I didn't know when we bought it that I thought at the time I was selling real estate, and I thought, yeah, I'm gonna have to sell more real estate to be able to make this float. Like, I'll take that on. To get to live here, I would have done anything, right? I didn't know until like 2 years later, 3 years later, that Tom was like, the thought of that mortgage made me sick.
I was terrified. The day we closed on this, I had a fairly new car. I sold that car and I bought a $1,500 just beat up SUV and drove the wheels off it, because I was just like, there's no way that we could have any bills beside that mortgage, because that mortgage was.
Yeah. I don't know. I just felt the way it all came together. I was like, okay, like it's meant to be. Otherwise, there was plenty of doors that could have closed along the way. But that's my optimistic, rosy outlook on life.
But I remember too back then, like, so I was working full time. We were selling real estate. I was driving truck for your parents as much as could be to earn extra money, tractors, all that stuff. And then, like, just always working. We were just doing everything we could to just constantly work and earn money, because like Dawn said, I was terrified of the mortgage.
And everything we did, we wanted to pay cash for all the improvements that we were making. So yeah, so we were burning the candle on both ends, working to afford it and then doing all of the work. So, and the funny part is, after our first house, we said, we will never buy a fixer-upper again, and here we are.
We'll probably buy another fixer-upper.
But that first summer we moved into, we planted sweet corn, we had a big garden, and so we were going all out with country living. And then we also knew the tree lines really hadn't had a lot of attention. Yeah. And so Tom got the first tree that we planted, was a blue spruce tree. And he started clearing out that tree line, and
then I regretted clearing out that tree line, because it opened us wide open to the road.
Yeah, that lost our privacy. And so I don't even know how many trees you planted that first batch with all the pine trees.
That first year, we got, I think it was 16 to 18 Baldwin burlap trees. We got them on discount from some guy.
Yeah, we found a grower.
Guy in Wisconsin.
And it was like, just, what did he call it? Park stock. It was like the not good stuff that was left over at the end of the season.
Yeah. He's like, oh, these trees they're not going to be the prettiest. I was like, I don't care.
Nope.
We live in the country.
We don't
Put
need
them
pretty.
in the ground.
Yep. So it's been fun to see them grow. We planted a maple tree in front of the house.
Yeah, I was going to say, this maple tree was one of those.
And so once we got all that done, then we could start turning our attention to more of the fun stuff. And so we've gotten to share our kitchen update, and then eventually making the extra bedrooms upstairs. And so one of the first projects that I decided to video, was when we updated the kitchen to how it is now. I think, what was your fear with it if I was videoing you while you were working on it?
I was going to get criticized.
And I know a lot of people have asked, like, how did you learn to do the things that, like the construction things and the remodeling things?
Trial and error.
Yeah.
I have a fairly mechanical background,
yeah.
And then, trial and error. I spent one summer remodeling houses with a buddy, and then otherwise, like, my parents remodeled our house as kids. My career was fairly mechanical.
So I get it why you didn't want it to be videoed. And the other thing that was kind of cool, the very first time we came here, we had seen the blueprints when they added on this section of the house, and there was an option that they didn't go for. Yeah,
they had drawn out a deck. It was like a CAD model printed version of a deck, and so that kind of got us the ball rolling. And I took pictures of that stuff while we were looking through the house quick. So that kind of is what inspired our deck to be where it's at, because...
Yeah, because I don't know that I would have thought of that otherwise. Normally you think a deck's like back of the house, front of the house, but not really off the side of it. So it was kind of fun then to be able to eventually add that on too. Unfortunately, it was 2 summers ago, there was a big storm and we lost one of the huge oak trees in the yard. And that was so sad. It just, I don't know, there's something about oak trees I think that just... It almost feels like it's like protecting the yard, or it's...
Well, it's the thing where you'll never replace it in your lifetime. The amount of time it takes to get an oak tree that size.
Yeah. So. And it was amazing how then once it was down, then too, even though we're so far off the road, it just was like we could see all of our neighbors.
Big old hole. Yep.
So that was really sad and disappointing. So we just keep planting trees and planting trees and planting
every
trees.
year, more trees.
And two, when we moved in, what we're calling our office building now was just a livestock shed. And
So the office building, we did that. We tore down a corn crib.
oh yeah,
Got rid of that.
Yeah.
Also, maybe set on farm. Maybe somebody did. I don't know. It's the weirdest thing.
yeah, we might have had fire trucks in our yard. My memory's fuzzy.
We built the garden.
Yeah.
We built a playset. We moved a shed.
That still seems
Adding
crazy.
on to a shed.
Yeah. I mean, because from the day we drove in the yard, it was like, that is such a bummer that shed is behind the house.
I was like, I love that shed, but why did
Yeah.
they put it right there?
Yeah, and we get why they put it right there.
Yeah, they wanted to farm more farmland.
Exactly. So now that we actually got to do that here at the 5-year mark, that felt
Kinda
really
wild.
cool. And
Yeah.
still seems kind of surreal, actually. And so that's been fun. And so I think as we look ahead to the next 5 years, we want to get the shed finished out as a shop for Tom. We want to finish the office building. And we also have not done anything with either of the barns, really. Tom put some new doors on them. But I still, like the little barn, I talked about this last summer, and like when you drive in, it is like the first thing you see besides the house. So I really want to, I'm hoping this summer we can do something just to make it a little bit cuter. And we've shown a little bit, like on the back side of the barn, there was a lean-to.
Yeah, that came down on its own.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
need to finish cleaning that up and patch and repair the roof and stuff there. But otherwise, finishing out the shop, finishing out the office, it's kind of in our next couple of years plan. So we just wanted to kind of look back again, as it's been 5 years since we moved in. It feels like a lifetime ago, like a completely different lifetime, like looking back at how little the kids were and all of that. But I think we just both feel really fortunate now to get to live here, to get to raise our kids here. And so thanks for coming along you've been along with us for a lot of the improvements and the projects, and we really appreciate your support. There's been a lot of days we thought we were crazy. So we appreciate your support. We hope you have a really great weekend, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye-bye.